What if I told you that right now, at this very moment, the woman you desire has 10 men trying to win her? Some of them richer than you, some more handsome, some funnier, more charming, with smoother lines and better social proof. And yet, despite all their apparent advantages, most of them will fail. The question that gnaws at every man who has ever wanted to be chosen is simple, but brutal. How do you make her choose you when she has so many options? Pause for a moment and let that question echo in your mind, because behind it lies the truth that Machiavelli himself hinted at centuries ago. The man who tries hardest to compete for approval has already surrendered. The one who plays by the obvious rules competing, proving pleasings, is already the loser before the first move. Attraction, like power, doesn't go to the man who shines the brightest on the surface. It goes to the man who sees what others cannot, who understands the hidden game beneath appearances, who refuses to step into the trap of competition at all. Think about the way most men approach women in today's world. Their phones light up with notifications. They type faster than their own thoughts. They send compliment after compliment, hoping one will stick. They give their time, their energy, their focus freely, as if these things cost them nothing. They pour themselves into a woman's inbox, as though their value is determined entirely by whether she responds. But what do they actually accomplish? They blur into one another. 10 men, 20 men, it doesn't matter. They become interchangeable, forgettable, predictable. Now, Machiavelli wrote of rulers, of politics, of survival in brutal times, but power between people has never changed. In love, in attraction, in the subtle currents between man and woman, the same principles apply. If you want to be remembered, if you want to stand out, you cannot act like the rest. You cannot offer yourself as yet another applicant waiting at her door, hoping she approves your resume of qualities. That is weakness disguised as effort. Here is the brutal truth. The moment you compete for her attention, you admit that her approval is the prize, and your worth depends on her judgment. That frame alone destroys attraction. Because what is really being communicated when a man fights for a woman's attention? He is saying silently, with every text, every compliment, every frantic reply, please choose me so I can feel valuable. And in that instant, the power shifts, becomes the judge, and he the beggar. And no matter how much she smiles, no matter how politely she entertains him, deep down, she does not truly desire a beggar. Women, whether consciously or instinctively, are drawn to strength. Not the kind of strength that lifts weights in a gym, not the strength that flexes with loud declarations, but the strength of a man who does not give away his center. The man who stands calm in his own worth, the man who does not collapse just because she withholds a reply or gives attention to someone else. That kind of man is rare. That kind of man cannot be ignored. Now ask yourself, how many of the men in her inbox behave differently from one another? Almost none. They follow the same script. Good morning, beautiful. How was your day? They reply instantly, as though nothing else in their lives matters. They hover waiting for a sign, constantly predictable, hoping that consistency will win her. But predictability doesn't ignite attraction. Predictability suffocates it. Predictability makes her feel in control, and control kills desire. Think of it this way. When she can predict your every move, she owns you. She knows exactly when you'll text, what you'll say, how you'll respond. And the moment she knows everything, the mystery dies. Without mystery, there is no spark. Without tension, there is no fire. The truth is harsh, but undeniable. Women forget the men they can easily read, but they obsess over the man who refuses to be predictable. Mystery is not about playing games. Mystery is oxygen. It is the element that keeps curiosity alive. A woman doesn't obsess over perfection. She obsesses over the man who unsettles her mind with questions. Why hasn't he replied yet? Why does he notice things no one else notices? Why does he seem unaffected by the things that shake other men? These unanswered questions create energy, and that energy becomes desire. You see the others drown her in attention. They give endlessly, hoping quantity will make up for quality. But what happens to anything that is endless? Predictable? Cheap? It loses value? Unlimited attention is like water in the ocean, abundant, infinite, easy to ignore. But rare attention, attention that comes from standards, attention that has weight, that is priceless. And this is where inverted power begins. Machiavelli spoke of rulers who maintained control not by chasing, but by holding still while others danced around them.
Oh.
The same principle applies here. When 9 men are running, panting, begging for her attention, you must be the one who does not run. It's the one who stands still. Because the moment you stop chasing, the game flips. The others pursue her while she begins to feel herself pulled toward you. This isn't about ignoring her, nor about being cold or manipulative. It's about understanding that value is not proven by how much you give, but by how rare, how deliberate, and how purposeful your giving is. Think of diamonds. Their worth is not in size, but in rarity. Your attention must work the same way. If you give it constantly, it means nothing. Got it? If you give it selectively, your words come with weight. If your presence is rare, yet unforgettable, then suddenly your value multiplies. She begins to notice your absence. She begins to wonder why you haven't messaged. She starts thinking about you, not because you begged, but because your scarcity creates tension. Scarcity is not games. Scarcity is not disappearing for days just to provoke her. That is weakness disguised as strategy. True scarcity is about standards, is about valuing your own time and energy so much that you don't hand them away cheaply. You do not reply instantly when you are busy. You do not cancel your life to orbit hers. You do not speak just to fill silence. Instead, you give your presence with intention, and that intention makes you unforgettable. Now let us confront another harsh truth. Most men think they can win by being nice, by drowning her in kindness and comfort. They believe if they make her feel like a queen, she will stay. But comfort, though pleasant, is forgettable. The brain does not obsess over nice, it obsesses over intensity. Nice words fade. Grand gestures blur. But one moment of emotional fire, one line that strikes deeper than surface compliments, anchors itself in her memory. And once that anchor is set, she cannot let it go. 9 men will tell her, "You're so beautiful." Those words will vanish like smoke. But you, the rare man, say, "There is something in the way your mind works that unsettles me in the best way." Suddenly, you are no longer one of the 9. You have carved yourself into her memory with depth. That depth is the difference between being admired and being unforgettable. And here lies the paradox most men never learn. The more you try to be flawless, the less she remembers you. But the man who creates intensity, whether through mystery, scarcity, or emotional depth, this is the one her mind cannot release. Because obsession is never born from comfort. Obsession is born from intensity. Every woman, whether she admits it or not, tests men. Sometimes consciously, sometimes instinctively. She takes hours to reply. She pulls back suddenly. She grows distant without warning. She does this not always to manipulate, but to see. Will he collapse? Will he beg? Will he lose control the moment I withhold attention? And 9 out of 10 men fail. They double text. They panic. They apologize. They surrender their peace to her silence. In that moment, they show their weakness. But the man of strength remains steady. He continues his life without drama. His mood does not depend on her message. His worth is not tied to her approval. He does not chase. He does not beg. He does not explain. He stands still. And that stillness, that calm, becomes magnetic. Because she realizes, I cannot control this man. And what she cannot control, she cannot forget. This is the paradox of attraction. The man who is ready to walk away is the man who usually stays, because he does not need her to validate him. He is never desperate. He is willing to lose her if it means keeping himself. And that willingness makes him rare. The others cling tighter, suffocated by fear, but he does not. And so she clings to him. Understand this well. The more you chase, the faster she slips away. The more you try to hold her, the more you show you are afraid of losing her. But the man who proves he can let go, the man whose self-respect outweighs his need for her, he is the one she fears losing. And that is why, in a world of endless options, in a world where she is surrounded by men trying harder and harder to win her, she will always remember the man who did not compete, the man who stood still while others ran, the man who chose himself first. It's perfect. Let's move into part 2, keeping it seamless, intense, and expanded like part 1. I'll carry the same voice, rhythm, and depth, making it over 4,000 words with no subheadings, just continuous flow. You already know now that the battlefield of attraction is not where most men think it is. It is not in who spends more, who compliments more, who texts first or last, or who bends the furthest to win approval. That is the surface. That is the arena where the weak fight and prove themselves until they collapse. Real power exists in a quieter, deeper place. It exists in the man who does not need to prove himself at all. But here is the paradox that separates the unforgettable man from the countless forgotten ones. Emotional impact matters more than effort. Think about the men she forgets the fastest. They are the ones who gave endlessly, who tried with all their might, who sent flowers and compliments and long messages. And yet years later, she doesn't even remember their names. But the man who made her feel fire, who unsettled her, who created emotions she could not control, that man she remembers long after he is gone. Why? Because the human mind does not cling to comfort, it clings to intensity. Comfort fades because it feels safe, expected, ordinary. But intensity burns itself into memory. The man who triggers emotions, whether joy, tension, curiosity, or desire, becomes impossible to erase. And so your goal is not to be perfect, not to be the safest, most predictable choice, but to be the man who carves deep emotional anchors into her memory. Once those anchors are set, she will return to them again and again, even when she tries to forget. Now imagine the difference between 10 men. 9 of them are constant in their niceness, endlessly praising, endlessly giving, endlessly predictable. But one man speaks a single line with depth. One man notices what she hides, not what she shows. One man sees past the mask into the part of herself she doesn't reveal easily. That man with one moment of presence outweighs all the effort of the 9, and she knows it. She may not admit it, but she feels it. This is the essence of emotional safety, not the shallow comfort of being spoiled with gifts or pampered with words, but the deeper safety of being truly seen. The rarest thing a woman can experience is a man strong enough to hold her truth without collapsing. Understand this carefully. Most men panic when they see a woman's raw self. They panic when she is moody, chaotic, doubtful, or vulnerable. They pull away. They try to fix her. They try to make her perfect again because they cannot handle her full reality. But the man who remains calm, steady, grounded in himself, that man creates an unbreakable bond. Because she realizes, often without words, this man can handle me. This man can carry my truth without fear. Do you see the difference? The others want her beauty, her mask, her performance. They want her when she is charming, when she is smiling, when she is perfect. But the man of strength accepts her shadow as much as her light. He sees her contradictions, her flaws, her hidden scars, and he does not flinch. That is why she trusts him. That is why she desires him even more than the others. Because for the first time, she does not have to perform. She can simply exist. And here is where the game flips entirely. Women are surrounded by men who want their bodies. Well, but they are almost never surrounded by men who can hold their truth. That is why emotional safety is magnetic. It is rare. It cannot be faked. And when she experiences it, it brands itself into her heart. But scarcity matters here too, because if you try to provide this depth constantly, if you give it endlessly, it loses weight. Real scarcity is not about ignoring her or vanishing for days. That is immaturity. Real scarcity is about standards. It is about valuing your time, your energy, your focus so deeply that you do not waste them on anyone undeserving. Scarcity means your attention has weight, not because you ration it artificially, but because it is genuinely tied to your standards and your purpose. Consider the weak man again. He replies instantly, even when busy. He cancels plans just to be available. He rearranges his life around hers out of fear of losing her. His attention is cheap, unlimited, and therefore meaningless. Now compare him to the man of standards. This man does not vanish, but neither does he collapse into constant availability. His life continues. His mission remains his focus. His attention, when given, feels deliberate and rare. She knows when she receives it, it matters. It is earned. It is not thrown out carelessly. This is the paradox of scarcity. The less often it is given, the more valuable it becomes. The man of standards makes his attention addictive because she starts to crave what she cannot control. She begins to notice its absence. She starts to wonder how she can earn more of it. And suddenly, the balance of power has shifted. No longer is he the one competing to be chosen, now she is the one competing to remain in his orbit. And yet, there is another layer, the unspoken test of strength. Every woman tests men, often silently, often without admitting it even to herself. She pulls back, delays replies, grows distant, or creates tension just to see how he will react. For the weak men, this is a disaster. They break instantly. They send double messages, panic texts, apologies, explanations, desperate attempts to win back her attention. And all of it reveals their weakness. They show her, clearly, my emotions belong to you. My peace depends on your approval. But the man of strength, he does not bend. He does not chase. He does not panic. He continues his life as if nothing has changed. His mood is steady, his focus untouched. And in that calmness, she feels something electrifying. I cannot control this man. That realization alone triggers respect, and respect is the foundation of attraction. Understand this clearly. Women do not always plan these tests. Sometimes it is subconscious, times it is instinct. But no matter the reason, the result is the same. The way a man responds reveals his true core. The weak collapse. The strong remain still, and in that stillness, they win. Now, the final paradox is the one that breaks her control entirely. The man who is willing to walk away is the man who usually stays. Why? Because desperation is the enemy of attraction. The man who clings proves he fears losing her. He shows that his identity, his worth, his sense of value depends on her. And fear always suffocates desire. But the man who is ready to lose her, who respects himself enough to walk away if necessary, radiates something rare: freedom. And here lies the most counterintuitive truth. The women chase the man they cannot control, the man they cannot predict, the man who values himself more than he values their approval. The others cling because they are afraid, but he is willing to let go. And because he can let go, she holds tighter. That is the paradox of power and attraction. The one most willing to leave is the one she cannot let go of. So ask yourself now, do you want to be one of the countless men who fade into her memory, who follow the script, who drown her in predictable attention until she grows bored? Or do you want to be the man she cannot forget, the man who refuses to compete, who lives with standards, who creates intensity and mystery, who remains unshaken in the face of her tests, who is willing to walk away without fear? If you want to be that man, you must accept this truth. You don't win by trying harder. You don't win by chasing. You don't win by outshining. You win by refusing to play the game of need altogether. You win by choosing yourself first, by standing firm in your own value, by making your presence rare, deliberate, unforgettable. Because in the end, she does not choose the man who tried the hardest to please her. She does not choose the man who gave the most, who begged the longest, who collapsed the fastest. She chooses the man who never needed her to choose him in the first place. She chooses the man who already chose himself. So remember this. When all is said and done, attraction is not about effort. It is about energy. It is about power. It is about the invisible gravity that pulls her toward the man who refuses to compete. That man will always be remembered. That man will always be desired. And that man can only exist when he lives by one law above all: I am enough with or without her. In the moment you breathe that truth, the moment you live it with every word, every action, every silence, then, and only then, do you stop being one of many. You become the one she cannot forget.